On this episode of AV Week, we look at AVWeek's weekly look at the industry amid COVID-19. Zoom aims to get more secure and a new standard in AV over IP. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 458, recorded Friday, May 29th, 2020. Two Pillars.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by Middle Atlantic, what great systems are built on.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, we'll do ladies first. From the great state of New York and Atlas IED, Gina Sansevero. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me, and happy birthday!
Yes, thank you very much. We're recording this on May 29th, which, if you didn't know, is John F. Kennedy, Shakespeare, and my birthday. So I'll let you know. I'll let you decide which one of those is the best one. So also with us, I don't know, Central Time Zone. We'll go with Mr. Actually, no, I'm going to leave him for last because I'm excited that he's here. Brock McGinnis from Avitas up by Toronto Way. Welcome, sir.
I'm sorry you're not excited that I'm here, but
I'm excited you're here, but never mind. I'll explain why I'm excited Sean's here. Also with us is Neville Bounds from Byamp by way of the UK. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, hi, Tim. How are you doing? Thanks very much indeed for inviting me back on. Absolutely.
And Neville is, if you're not watching the video, Neville's setup is one of the few ones that rivals and beats mine. But we worked with our friends over at Oralex, and I have soundproofing not quite as fancy as Neville's, but it's getting there. So last but not least, I'm very excited to welcome this man back to the AV industry. He stepped out for a little bit. I knew him at AMX, but Mr. Sean Robinson is back in the industry with 12 Bar Insights. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim. Glad to be here. Glad to be back. And happy 31st birthday.
Well, thank you. That works. Yeah, 31 works.
Yeah.
Sean and Brock both have left their respective long-term employers and now are consultants. So I think I might be doing something wrong. I just want to point that out there. So let's kick this off, guys. And not for nothing, there's still, there's a number of folks that are still under lockdown for COVID-19. The folks at AVWeek continue to do these weekly surveys for folks, and they've posted another one. One is on our website. We'll put that link here. But Brock, I'm going to start with you on this. As AVWeek continues to do these surveys where folks are both regionally and nationally, and somewhat internationally as well. We've got a couple stories, both from AVWeek as well as from AV Magazine, our friends over there, looking at both Sean Wargo and Jillian Phillips now of AVISPL, what their look at for the next 6 months to a year. What are you seeing, both from the Canadian standpoint, but also from a North American standpoint, and the clients that you're talking to? What do the integrators on the ground expect for the next quarter and even for the rest of this year?
AV integration is typically a long tail business, and so people have a whole bunch of work, in their funnel, in their pipeline, and there's a tremendous pent up demand to start getting sold orders and projects out into the field. So people are excited to be returning to work. I'm sure manufacturers are excited to start shipping again, at least have customers interested and able to receive goods. The concerns are about 6 and 9 months from now, not for the next 6 months. It's that nobody seems to know whether the customers will continue to buy and whether the projects that were only under design but were not yet committed and funded will in fact go forward, or whether the customer base will be hanging tight onto their purse strings until they know what's happening in their businesses and their world.
I want to get Gina and Neville, you guys' perspective from a manufacturer standpoint. Gina, from your perspective, both from sales and marketing, but also from the U.S. based manufacturing, what are you guys seeing, whether it's in education or Fortune 500?
I think Brock kind of nailed it. What we're seeing is we've had a bunch of projects in specific industries like transportation who were committed for Q3 and Q4 of this year, move it up to now. They don't have to move around gates to get some infrastructure updates done. So because there's nobody in the airports now anyway, so they've moved all that up. So we've seen a huge uptick in our transportation business. But what does that mean for Q3 and Q4? And what does that look like, right, for us? Because that's where it was forecasted. So I think Brock is absolutely right. There's an uncertainty 6 to 9 months from now. The economist that NSCA had on a couple of days ago, he kind of confirmed that the most likely kind of economic comeback will be that kind of V shape. So really steep decline, really quick recovery. I don't know if the aviation industry is going to be kind of on par with that. I think that we might see a little bit of a slowdown kind of later in the year. We're hearing from a lot of our integrator partners that they're not necessarily slowing down, but they're not doing new job walks, right? They're not doing,
Right.
Yeah, they're not doing any of that. So what does that mean for Q1 of 2021? From a manufacturing standpoint, we have not slowed down. All of our facilities are up and running. We have not laid off one worker. We have not furloughed anybody. And we are still shipping probably more than we have over the past 6 months. So, thank goodness we're doing pretty well, but, we are cautious. Cautiously optimistic.
I like that too. Neville, from your perspective over in Europe, in the UK, read a story this week, I think it was in the journal, about a new airport in Berlin. They're calling the Phantom Airport, right? Because it is quite empty. And the director there was talking about what Gina was saying is we're actually thankful that we're under this lockdown right now, because they're able to kind of slowly roll it out and slowly, kind of feel it out and see where some of the issues are. Is that what you're seeing both in transportation as well as education, where facilities are either shut down or reduced capacity, so integrators are able to get in more quickly and do work a little bit more efficiently?
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of that, I think, Tim, certainly in the London area in particular, and in other large European cities as well. I think the problem with this whole situation is that no one knows. All I can say so far is that the business for Q3 and Q4, for most people that I speak to, still looks pretty reasonable. So these projects have been postponed a little bit rather than cancelled outright. Now, fast forward to 2021, that's a whole different ball game, I think, because no one really knows how this is going to play out. And I think that there's still the desire to do large-scale integration projects, both in the transportation and especially in the education field. That seems to have been absolutely full on. But what we're going to see coming into Q1 and Q2 of next year is definitely unknown at the moment.
All right, Mr. Robinson, you'll get to kind of end up with the anchor on this. If all three of these folks are right, and we're looking at the rest of this year might be fine because it's already filled, the pipeline's already there. It's filling that first quarter, second quarter of 2021. How do we do that in this uncertain time?
Yeah, I think it's going to be important to look at which market verticals are probably going to respond or recover the quickest. And I know there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty, but when you look at hospitality and entertainment and travel, right, those three have been impacted the most, immediately. But I think those are also going to be the ones that recover the quickest, because just like we were talking about right before you all jumped on the call, is that, we all want to get out of our house, right? And so there's a tremendous amount of pent up demand. I know personally the thing I miss the most is live music, right? And so I cannot wait to get out to see a concert again. So I think now there needs to be some, confidence in that there's some progress being made and that the curve is, flattened and decreasing and all that, but then people are going to be getting out there and traveling and going to hotels and going out to concerts. So I think those are going to recover pretty quickly. Education. I know everybody's gotten a big taste of that. I've got 2 boys, one high school, one college, and online is just not as great, as an experience, right? And the teachers and professors I've talked to hate it, right? The ones who are forced into it. Now, there always will be that component, but I think education, even if they are going to change, that market seems to be a little bit slow to change. So I think education is going to recover. My biggest concern is the corporate market, and that's one market I spent a lot of time in. And now that a lot of organizations have seen that remote working and UC collaboration tools actually work, and they can actually be functional, and as a company, I think the investments going into new spaces are going to really dramatically decrease. And my biggest concern too is huddle space, right? Talk about lack of social distancing, right? That was such a big, huge market for us all. And now I just don't know how many new ones are going to be built going forward as they're speccing out new designs. So that'll be interesting. That's the one I see the most uncertainty around, is the corporate market, which is a large proportion of the Pro AV space.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to point out that 6 years ago, I told y'all I hated the word huddle space. And now,
Yes,
now
you
look
did.
at you.
Yes, you did.
Now look at you.
Yeah.
No. There is absolutely some of that. And really, people smarter than me are talking about, the adjustments and the redesign of the workspace. I don't buy the whole, it's the end of the office in general. There are folks who physically, who mentally need to go into an office. Talking with a friend of mine who's in broadcasting here in St. Louis. She's like, I have to go to an office. I will not get things done, right? I simply will end up on the couch watching Gilmore Girls because that's her show. This is not a sexist statement. That's what she said. And she goes, I have to get up, I have to get ready, and I have to physically go. And she does. She still does. She broadcasts from St. Louis. So, all right. Let's take a look at commercial integrator, and we'll start with Gina on this. Zoom is getting more and more serious about their end-to-end encryption. I say that somewhat sarcastically, but they really are. Not only do they have the bug bounty, which if you're not familiar with that, real quickly, if you're a hacker or you think you are, you can go through Zoom's back end, and if you find a bug, they'll give you money. That is their bug bounty, right? In addition to that, they just purchased Keybase about a week or so ago, and now they've laid out a 90-day security plan from the article, quote unquote. Draft comes shortly after Zoom acquired Keybase, a secure messaging service that is supposed to help Zoom reach that encryption milestone. Since early May, Keybase and Zoom teams have been integrating to help bring that offering to the platform that was vulnerable to meeting hacks and other security and privacy concerns. Gina, we'll start with you on this. We use Zoom here at AVNation. Okay, we have for a number of years. We personally like it because I'm able to do certain things from a broadcast standpoint. I can isolate everybody's audio. They haven't gotten to the point where I can isolate everybody's video yet, but audio-wise, Mitchell, our producer, can take it and cut things out if I say something stupid or what, But as this whole work from home thing happened and Zoom just went through the roof from a usage standpoint, a number of cracks were found. When it comes to either software provider or a manufacturer, covering those security concerns is becoming more and more important, especially as things continue to go on the network. Atlas IAD has a number of products that go on the network. You guys also released a fairly high-profile speaker last year that also goes on the network. When you're talking with integrators and you're talking with designers, what are some of the concerns that they're saying when you're talking about putting products and putting devices on their network?
Yeah, so what we do is we keep clear feedback, clear routes of communication with our customers, with their customers, and with us. So we make sure that we have network consideration documentation for all of our products. It's visible on our website. All of our RSMs and reps have that at their disposal. Sorry about that. To be able to provide all of our products are thoroughly tested, and when there is any kind of firmware update or anything like that, all of that communication goes directly to our customers as quickly as possible. We have focus groups to discuss with our customers and with our end users, so our customers' customers, what types of communication that they would want, how often they want communication about, updates for security, updates for bug fixes, updates, all the different types of updates. And we take that feedback very seriously. So we have, monthly, quarterly communications that go out to ensure that everybody has a feeling of security, everybody is on the same page, and that if something is found for our products to be, maybe a fix that has to be band-aided or more, we are then able to kind of receive that communication quickly because we keep those lines open. Additionally, a lot of our products are in high profile, high visibility, high security, mission critical applications, right? Transportation is one of them. Government buildings is another. And so we absolutely 100% take it very seriously when doing our training. We have certified integrators for some of our larger products and deployments where you have to be certified by our trainers in order to sell the product, install the product, service this product, and support the product. So we kind of pride ourselves on having a really educated and very transparent relationship with our integrators, and then with our integrators' customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Neville, one of the things from the article that Zoom says is that security and privacy are the two pillars of this 90-day plan. What else should be a part of any manufacturer's plan when it comes to looking at the security of their, honestly, of their devices, of the applications, but also the applications that are sitting on the network?
Yeah, I think you could remember that what we're doing these products for today, it's not just nice to have. I mean, these are mission critical situations, as Gina was just saying. And I think that the security and the usability has got to be right up there. And we all know of other products that have had difficulties in the past. And boy, that goes through the industry very, very quickly indeed. And I think it's really important that it's incumbent upon all manufacturers to really take the security things very seriously, and also have the relationship with the network security managers at the end user level, especially because that's where it's, if it goes wrong, that's the call you're going to get. So I think it's one of those things that people have taken it more and more seriously over the last 3 or 4 years. And as we're using things like Zoom and other platforms as well, it's got to be number one of the list.
All right. Mr. Robinson, I'm not going to pick on you necessarily because you were not the programmer that did this. However, you were at AMX at the time that Ars Technica, a technology blog, busted open some back doors that you guys had. So from a former manufacturer standpoint, but also from a consultant standpoint, as you're dealing with manufacturers and the integrators, what should be in kind of a plan, right? A security plan for both manufacturers and integrators?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you so much, Tim, for bringing that up, because that helped me remember that sleepless week that I had. That was after we were just acquired by Harman. And so, yeah, all those late night phone calls with the head of Harman and all that. Oh, good times. But yeah, the environments that AMX have been going in for years, again, we're very highly sensitive environments. And so that we're getting some pretty significant penetration testing going on. And one of the things is it's a tremendous investment. I can tell you for a fact, for a manufacturer, we spent millions and millions of dollars on security features, right? It's a lot of work. And as Gina was pointing out, it's not just work in development, it's work in documentation. But literally the most important thing is what we found during that, we learned a tremendous amount during that. It was so awesome having Mr. Zeeley on board along with me as we went through that process. But one of the things we really learned is that when you're dealing with IT organizations, it's not, Ars Technica made it seem like the world was, crumbling and all these horrible
they
things.
made it seem like the world was crumbling because it was in the ready room, the war room of the White
situation
House,
room, right?
Situation room of the White House.
And then putting Batman in there and all the other.
That was the backdoor name, yes.
That was awesome, yes. But what we found is when we talked to the IT departments and their leadership, from the very, very large, Fortune 100 financials, it was another day in the office for them. They're like, hey, give us the facts, tell us what the vulnerability is, and we're good, right? They weren't panicking about it at all. It's something that they face in the IT industry all the time. Vulnerabilities come up. It's responsiveness and transparency. And so that's why I was extremely impressed with Zoom and what they've done with Eric Yuan running the show. What an excellent example of leadership, because this issue came out. What did he do right off the bat? He took full responsibility for it as a CEO, as a leader, full responsibility. They put a plan in place. This acquisition is one part of the plan. And then they're being extremely transparent about what they're doing, and to the point where they're putting their design on GitHub for peer review and interviewing people and getting feedback. I think that's a great lesson for all of us in the AV industry, for manufacturers specifically, is that is an excellent way. Look at this as a case study on how to handle this type of situation, because they did it in a great way, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Brock, you wrap up here. And if you're not familiar with GitHub, really quickly, it is this repository of open source programming, right? I've referenced this a couple of times, actually the last couple of days with some folks, where whether it's Python code or C+ or C# code, you can go both submit your programming there and say, okay, guys, knock yourself out. Or it's also a place where you can get sample programming, right? Where people will share information as well. Brock, you've been in the industry for a minute. Do you see the industry doing something like that besides Eric? And I would pull Zoom into the AV industry to a certain aspect. Do you see that where, a number of any manufacturer saying here GitHub or here open source, or creating some sort of bug bounty for people to go after their stuff?
Short answer is no. I think we've got a lot of smaller inward-facing manufacturers in the business that all think that they have a better mousetrap or a better idea than someone else, and are not that much into sharing with one another. That said, we're starting to see a lot more open source initiatives. Video codecs and audio transport and whatnot, which is a positive thing. Those tend not to be the companies, the financial end of the business. It tends to be the technology people. One thing we do have in our industry is people who are passionate about what they do. Most people aren't here for the livelihood. They're here because we love this stuff, and if we weren't doing it for a living, we'd be doing it as a hobby. And so there is a lot of sharing, certainly at that level. But I don't see Crestron, opening the kimono to their competitors anytime soon. And not to pick on Crestron, but no. It's not been the nature of the industry. What amazes me about this, though, this particular story, is I cannot believe that Zoom wasn't encrypted in the first place. Like that was. That is a shock to me.
Well, here's the thing, and they are not high level Department of Defense or Department of Justice certified yet, right? They have a lower level, and you can use it in certain parts of the government, U.S. government. But they're not to the level of, let's say, a Cisco switch that has a dedicated switch and it's encrypted and it's all that. I was not overly surprised that it wasn't encrypted end to end. Simply because I don't know, it's one of those things where I don't know that Skype is encrypted all that well end to end. I mean, there is some encryption on it, but it's not infallible. Right. And I've said this quote 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. Teresa Payton, which if you were in the AV industry and you're not following her and not reading her stuff, you need to. She was the first CTO of the White House under President Bush, the second President Bush. She said in a presentation that I was able to moderate, she said it's not a question of if, the question is when you will get hacked, or at least get attempted to get hacked. Right, and that means you, Mr. Integrator, as well as manufacturers and your products. So you need to keep yourself safe. I think we've got time for one more real quick one. I want to get to your guys' 2 cents on a new industry standard out here. The Alliance for IP Media Solutions, called AIMS, and they've got a pro AV working group. They have released an AV over IP standard, IPMX, based on SMPTE, SMPTE, ST 2110. It is their AV over IP standard. It's based on a broadcast standard. Neville, we'll start with you on this real quick. In this, what feels like very crowded room of AV over IP standards, number one, did we need another one? And number two, what are your thoughts on IPMX?
Well, we love standards, don't we, in this industry? We can't get enough of them. We can't get enough of them. And if they're incompatible with each other, then so much the better. This is an interesting development. SMPTE 2110, I was involved a little bit with it in my previous job. Yeah, it's got some promise, I think. But again, we've just got to be really careful about how this stuff is rolled out, and compatibility issues. And also from the manufacturing point of view, what are the demands going to be from the manufacturing and the design point of view, and these things tend not to happen that quickly, because you then need to get everybody on board. I mean, look at I don't know, Dante or AVB, for example. That didn't happen overnight. That took a lot of doing, and to take a lot of manufacturers with them to get them on board. So I think this has got some promise, but you don't want to be in a rush for it, I would say.
Yeah. Sean, same kind of question. As you're talking with folks, both from the manufacturer side as well as the consumer side, is this another standard that we need, or is this going to muddy the waters?
Now that I'm not connected in with a manufacturer, I can speak a little bit less politically correct, I guess. So on these standards, let me just say that you always have to ask yourself, what's the incentive for the manufacturer? I mean, when they're spending all this money in development, what is going to drive them to spend extra effort and dollars on actually adhering to a standard? And then especially if you are if you're desiring, or you are a full solution provider like a Crestron or Nextron or a Harman, if you come in and say to these companies, right, hey, you should be a part of this standard, they're going to go, wait a minute, why? What's in it for me? At the end of the day, it's a cost benefit analysis. And I think that's why we see so many of these standards that just, they're cool. There's lots of benefits for the integrator and the end user from an interoperability perspective. Even, AV consultants love it too, because they can test a breed and things are guaranteed to work together. But at the end of the day, nothing's ever going to move forward unless the manufacturers all get behind it, and they have to be forced into it, literally forced into it by customer demand, that they see that there's truly a benefit, or it just ain't going to happen. That's what I've seen.
All right, I forgot my Bradford rule, which is I have to spell out the acronyms, because SMPTE is not just a word; it's an acronym. It stands for the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. It's become a word in the broadcast industry, but it stands for something. Brock, when you're talking with folks and you're designing systems, is it something where you take a look at what's the most popular, or what's the most popular and the most the proper solution for the job? When you're talking with both engineers as well as the clients that you work with?
Ideally, you're looking for a best solution, not most popular. And this being your birthday, and now that I know how old you are, you do know why I chose beta rather than VHS.
I absolutely know why. Yeah, because you didn't watch movies longer than 60 minutes.
Wait, I want to know why.
I don't think you do.
It was a better quality. Beta was absolutely a better quality, but you couldn't. What was it? Was it 90 minutes? You couldn't get longer. There was a limitation to beta, right?
Yes. And you could also get stereo much earlier, and there was just there were just a whole bunch of advantages. A lot of this comes down to the commercial aspects, for sure. AVB, I think, was a tremendous standard. If they could have got the switch manufacturers on board and some others on board, it would have gone a lot further than it did. The proliferation of Dante absolutely blows my mind about how it, amongst all the digital audio standards, has just kind of I'll say weaseled its way to the top, but everybody's got Dante, and you got to have Dante. And then they said, "Oh, I'm going to go into video," at which point everybody looked at it and went, "Oh, wait a minute here. What have we done?" And maybe they're weaseling their way back down. It's the interoperability and the ability to choose best of breed is just, as you said, is really, really nice from an integrator or a design perspective. All I really know is that all of these standards seem to have a pretty short shelf life in terms of what's popular and what's not at any given time, because it is in all manufacturers' interest to be introducing something new all the time, and have a reason for new models and new products and new interest, so this is great. Let's try this one for a while. Some fairly small companies that are promoting it at this point.
I want to get Gina in on this because Atlas IED, not for nothing, but one of their main verticals is transportation. And if you've been to Miami Airport, you've been to the majority of the airports, at least in North America, and they have something like 50% saturation globally. You've heard an Atlas IED system, right? That runs on a couple of different protocols. One of them is Dante. But Gina, when it comes to looking at protocols, Dante is a privately held company. That protocol, that standard, if we're going to use that word, is a privately held protocol. AVB is not, right? This protocol is not. It is SMPTE is a volunteer organization. AVB was created by the IEEE, again a volunteer organization. Are there disadvantages, I guess, to doing it, picking up a protocol or a standard that's done by volunteers versus one that's ran by a for-profit company? And so they're going to have a financial interest, a fiduciary interest in perpetuating it and making sure that it goes forward and it continues to evolve.
So I love your question. I actually honestly don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that we've adapted Dante because of demand.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what Sean and Brock were saying. I mean, when we hear that our customers need this protocol or this standard, it behooves us to listen. And I wonder, does a standard such as this open standard for IPMX, does it guarantee interoperability? I mean, I think back to HD-based tea, and it was like, oh, which flavor do you have? Because my HD-based tea is not talking to your HD-based tea. So when it's something that's an open standard like this, I don't know. I don't know what those benefits are at some point. Sometimes it doesn't prove to make things easier for the integrator or the consultant.
No, absolutely. And that'll be a good place to stop. I love the fact that Sean is nodding his head about the different flavors of HD-based tea, though, because he lived. Oh God, he lived
more nightmares.
He lived those nightmares.
That's where all the hair went. So.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. Thank you, Gina Sansevero from Atlas IED. Thank you so much. Where do people find you or Atlas if they are so inclined?
Well, thanks for having me, Tim. Again, happy birthday. They can find Atlas IED at atlasied.com, Atlas_IED on Twitter, Atlas IED on Instagram, always on LinkedIn, and I am on Twitter at Gina Sands if you just want to say hi.
And in a couple of weeks you need to, because it's her birthday as well. So she turns 21 and we'll be getting her a bottle of vodka. Brock McGinnis, thank you, sir. How do people find you or Avitas?
I'm at Brock McGinnis on Twitter, or Brock at Avitas, AVITAAS.com, and happy to hear from you.
All right. Mr. Neville Bounds, thank you, sir. How do people get a hold of you or BuyAmp?
Yeah, it's buyamp.com is the website, and you can find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter at NevTech27.
All right, very good. And last but not least, Mr. Robinson, very good to see you again, sir. Again, welcome back. Welcome back. We're like the mafia. You just you think you're out, and we suck you back in.
Suck you back in.
So how do we get a hold of you or 12 Bar?
Yeah, just come and see me at the website, 12barinsights.com. That's number 12, and then barinsights.com. And then my social links are at the bottom of every webpage.
All right, very good. For Tim Albright, don't follow me because between me and Ninja Meg and a bunch of others, we were very excited the fact that hockey is back the 1st of July, so that's what we'll be talking about. But go by the website if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. It's also a brand spanking new website. That means two things. Number one, there are things that don't work. So go there, click on the links. Let us know what doesn't work. I mean, it's not a perfect science, right? But yeah, some really great folks spend a lot of time on it, so check that out. Also, while you're there, check out our supporter section. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and ResUweek and all the others, and BuyAmp is one of those, and so is Atlas IED, and we thank them for their support. We will be hanging out for InfoComm Connected in a couple of weeks. And this is for those of you who are in the residential space. CEDIA did announce that they are canceling this year, but they will also be doing a virtual version of that. So we will be doing some stuff with that. So you can find all of that at our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.